Good morning, friends, and welcome to the pre-market view. US markets were weak by about 0.4 to 0.6% on account of disappointing jobless claim data. Also, European markets were weak to the tune of about 0.5 to almost 0.75%. And when we look at the Asian markets, we have a mixed trend. The Nikkei is up almost about 0.4%, whereas the Hang Seng is down, Korea is down, and Chinese markets are showing positive gains. Though the data that came out from China, the manufacturing data were weaker than expectations, so that has its implications on some of the Asian markets. Talking about the flows, the FIs were net buyers in the cash market to the tune of about 959 crore, and the domestic institutions were sellers to the tune of about 864 crore. Also, importantly, the euro has powered ahead to about 1.36 against the dollar, and even the Brent crude is almost at 116 levels, so it means that the risk on trade is pretty much on, which is reflected in the way the USD INR has weakened to almost about 53.28. Remember that we have seen a significant appreciation in USD INR from about 55 odd levels to about 53.68. Also, we had an important expiry, but it turned out to be an extremely dull affair with hardly any movement in the market, and the Nifty closed somewhere around 6035 odd levels. So the rollover part we will discuss with Shaival, but because of the fact that on the Nifty there was hardly any movement, but we had certain stock specific movers in the market, particularly Axis Bank, ONGC, Infosys, some of the telecom stocks, they did extremely well in this series. So we'll try and check with Shaival about what are the possible stocks that we could keep in mind for the February series. On that note, let me invite Shaival.
Good morning, friends. Let's have a view at derivatives. Friends, we've seen that both globally and domestically majority of the events have been done, and we have seen that the markets have not reacted as it was expected. But what we have seen is that the expiry has ended very quietly, and that has been clearly reflected on the Nifty futures open interest. It has started with 1.3 crore shares in the open interest. Usually it's around 1.70, 1.90, 2 crore mark, so this is pretty dull, and even that can be seen from the rollovers activity. The rollover in Nifty future compared to previous month was marginally higher, which is at 64.37%, but if we compare it to the 3 and 6 months average rollover, it's lower than that. And we have also seen that the rollover cost not only in Nifty but also in Bank Nifty has reduced, and we have seen that short rollover has taken place in the market. The PCR ratio has started with 0.9, so yes, it's a sign of concern, but yes, the overall structure from the options activity is not suggesting that there is a bearishness or say there is a more downside room on the for the market. Yes, we have seen that 6,200 call option stands with the highest number of shares in the option matrix, whereas on the put side 6,000 put option stands with the highest number of shares. Talking about the straddle break-even point for the current month, the range would be 5925 on the lower side and on higher side 6275. So probably 6,200 is the hurdle which market would face if we see a bounce or say a rally in the market. The overall bias for the market is positive from our side, as we have seen that the implied volatility or say the volatility index VIX has been hovering in a narrow band. From the intraday perspective, IndusInd Bank is looking good. We have seen some good rollovers taking place in IndusInd Bank on the long side, so one can go long and maintain a stop loss of 430 rupees 70 paisa. Yes, the power stocks have remained lackluster, and we have seen some poor rollover in power stocks, so one can go short in power grid with resistance of 112.10 paisa. Bajaj Auto is looking weak. One can go short with resistance of 2069.65 paisa. Thank you.
Here are the important news and events that we are tracking today. The monthly auto sales number for the month of January are going to be out, and the major highlights are like this. Bajaj Auto is looking at about 2% kind of a month-on-month growth and about 7% kind of a YOY growth. In case of Hero MotoCorp, one will have to keep in mind that the inventory level is extremely high at the dealers level. So there is going to be some kind of a muted growth on a month-on-month basis, about 2% kind of a cut at about 530,000 vehicles. And in case of Tata Motors, there is going to be a 17.7% kind of a YOY drop in the vehicles sold. Also in other companies, Mahindra, we are looking at about 10% YoY growth for the automotive part, but the tractor sales is going to report a 4.4% kind of a negative growth. And in case of Maruti, we are looking at a YoY decline of 6.4%, but a month-on-month increase of 13.5%. And in case of Ashok Leyland, we are looking at a month-on-month increase of about 11% to about 10,000 vehicles. Also, some of the important companies which are going to be announcing numbers, Bharti Airtel, we are looking at a net profit of 777 crore. BHEL would be reporting a net profit of about 1378 crore. Keep in mind that there has been some kind of a decline in the turnover and margins for BHEL over the past few quarters, and some of the brokerages have also turned down their growth targets for the next couple of years. So watch out for BHEL numbers and the commentary from the management. IDFC, we are looking at a net profit of about 470 crore. And as we have seen the indications from the finance ministry that the guidelines for the banking licenses are going to be out in the next couple of weeks, IDFC could be a contender and there could be some positive action on account of that as well. In terms of the results which have already been announced, ICICI Bank came out with extremely good set of numbers. Their net interest income grew by 29% and the net profit growth was 30.2%, and even the asset quality showed a marked improvement. So overall numbers were extremely good, but the market reaction was not that impressive as we saw the stock coming down a bit. But overall, because of the fact that the private sector banks are doing extremely well, and we've seen some of the banks like Yes Bank and Axis Bank doing QIP at a higher rates, ICICI Bank should also remain quite steady. In terms of other results, PNB also came out with a good set of numbers. The net interest income growth was slightly muted, but the net profit growth was about 13.5%. And what market really surprised about these numbers was the fact that the asset quality had shown good improvement after a deterioration for the last 5 to 6 quarters. So we had seen the stock spiking up to almost about 10%. In other news, Oil India offer for sale is going to open today and the floor price is set at 510. We have a coverage on Oil India and we continue to be extremely positive, and we feel that given the fact that the stock has corrected because of the offer for sale, one should subscribe to this. And Jet Etihad deal may be closed today. Also, Jet is likely to come out with numbers. Overall sentiment towards Jet is quite positive. And RBI, in another important development, is going to consider restructured loans as NPLs from April 2015, which means that currently the restructured loans which are not being shown as part of the NPLs, the banks will have to show them as NPLs, and particularly for banks like State Bank of India and PNB, where about 10% of the loan book is such restructured loans, it could be a bit negative news for these two banks in particular. Pipavav Defence and Offshore is looking at doing a placement at about 120 rupees per share, valuing the company at about 8,400 crore, which would be at a substantial discount because the current price of Pipavav Defence is about 88. So if this deal goes through, it would definitely re-rate the company and could also trigger off an open offer. So one can go long on Pipavav with a stop loss of 86 and a target of about 91 to about 92.5. Lupin expects to launch 3 drugs in the US markets over the next 2 or 3 months. Also, Lupin came out with good set of numbers, so one can go long on Lupin with a stop loss of 592 and a target of about 622 to about 634. ONGC is likely to fight it out with China and Thailand companies for a stake in the oil company by Videocon in Mozambique. So one can go long on ONGC with a stop loss of 333 and a target of about 350 to about 357. That's it from all of us, friends. Have a great weekend and see you on Monday morning.